Michael Jackson's Thriller album.
Stories in the Room.
This is Michael Jackson's Thriller album, Stories in the Room. Join film composer Anthony Marinelli, who programmed synthesizers for 7 songs on Thriller, and A&R veteran film producer Stephen Ray, who assisted Quincy Jones and was in the studio every day with Quincy and Michael.
Michael Jackson's Thriller album, Stories in the Room.
I'm Anthony Marinelli with my longtime close friend and co-host, Stephen Ray, bringing you the real stories directly from the talented people in the room with us during the making of Thriller, the greatest selling album of all time.
This was the moment everything everyone had done in their life up to that point prepared them to be ready to create this.
Yeah. Seems like they all knew it too. There was a convergence.
It was an unspoken thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it didn't need to be spoken because you feel it. As you said earlier, you feel that too.
Now, if you really want to get
when you're
geeky about it, there's a thing called the quantum field. And it's like there was that in existence in that room.
Yes.
Because it was as if there was one mind at work. It got to the point when working with Bruce, I know what Bruce would want next. And when he would say, ask me for something, I'd say, it's already right there.
I remember that very well.
It's ready for you.
I remember that.
And Bruce would, but we all worked that way. There wasn't a single person on the team that wasn't in that state or frame of mind and didn't operate in that fashion.
Well, this answers the question. I mean, what sets Thriller apart? I mean, that doesn't always happen. Quantum feel, like, it's elusive, isn't it? I mean, does that happen on every album?
It happens to a lesser degree, I think, quite frequently. But this was the example of it truly coming together in a grand fashion.
Yeah, because it speaks to, one of the things that people don't think about enough. They use the word energy, they use the word vibe, but the spirit of each of the individuals was all aligned.
It was pure.
Like in life, they were all aligned.
Yeah, it was. Two things related to that. I have been asked many times, people say, well, did it surprise you what Thriller did? Or did you expect it to do that? I said, nobody in the room had any idea. I remember the day Quincy came over to me and I was doing something. He said, Matt, what do you think? The album, how well do you think it's going to do? I mean, and I said, well, I think it's going to do real good. The industry's in a tremendous slump, but it's going to do really well.
And they were coming from Off the Wall.
Yeah, and Off the Wall at that point, it sold 6 million. So I said, it's going to do as well as the 6 million mark. But when people ask me that question, I say, no one in that room knew. But at the same time, it did not surprise me that happened because of that very thing. That vibe in the room, the only time in my life there's been that state of mind in a room working with people at a high level, and the synchronicity of everyone's thoughts and everyone's actions just melding into moving this forward. Quincy is famous, and this one very well from We Are the World. He put the sign up outside the recording studio, when you enter, you leave your ego at the door. Mm-hmm. Now, Quincy was saying that long before We Are the World. But that was the understanding when you walked into that room. There wasn't any ego in that room. There was the music, and the music was central to everything. And that was the amazing thing, because I watched, over the course of all the records that I worked on with Quincy, I watched some amazing musicians come into the room. And there was this thing in the room, there was this vibe, there was this feeling. It was like Oh, somebody's come to join our party. Hey, come on in, check out what we're doing. And then the musician would come in, they'd go, wow, this is cool. And then Quincy would talk to him a little bit, and he'd kind of like precondition them before they went out to the mic. And they'd go out to the mic, and then they would perform, and they'd say, hey, come on in, let's check it out. And they'd come in, and then it would be playback, and Bruce would have them mixed together, and he'd crank it up. And I cannot tell you the number of times whoever the musician was would just be standing there listening to the beauty of the sound. And he'd go, wow, I did that. That's me. I mean, and when you're talking, you know, really, really high level musicians, really accomplished people, to hear that from someone who you know is one of the top respected people in their field, that there is something else. There is that other thing there. And then you know, oh wow, they feel great. And then everybody's feeling just great because it's like, wow, we're one step closer to that completion, which, you know, can be elusive because sometimes a lot of long hours, a lot of effort, a lot of attention to detail. And that's the stuff that, while I came into the situation understanding and knowing it, that was like amplified 10,000 times. You know, you talk about what I learned every day.
We were seeing it and feeling it.
I was
it's like it's just all in front of you.
Like, no, I wasn't a fly on the wall.
Right, exactly.
I was the part of the air that everybody was breathing in the room, because that's what we all were doing. We all were kind of breathing and feeling the breath of the song, the life of the song.
Now, Michael was one of the drivers for, you know, of that engine. So
his
what did you get from him?
of dedication and perfectionism, and the way he was a consummate professional in terms of coming in and being ready for whatever it was that he was going to do. He was prepared, and he knew exactly what he was going to execute, how he was going to execute it, and what he wanted the result to be. To the extent that when he would come in and he would do vocals, he would, as you know, on some songs, he would do his own backing vocals. And if it was, sometimes Rod would have written an arrangement for the vocals. If it was Rod's song, of course, the vocal arrangement would come from him. But sometimes that's what Rod would contribute to something when they were looking for something that was just right, that was going to work. When Michael came in and he knew the song cold, like Billie Jean or Beat It or Startin' Something, he would walk in and he would get to the microphone and he would sing. And later, when I was working on projects with Michael and I was recording him, he'd get lost in the song and the music, and he'd say, oh, is this the basic or the double? And I'd say, it's the double, Michael. He'd say, oh, okay, right. He knew exactly every little ad lib and where it was going to be placed in the stereo spectrum of the mix. Before he sang it, he knew exactly how all of that stuff was going to be coming out, and how all those things were going to be counterpoint, or how they would be an accent, or how they would interplay into how the flow of what was happening musically flowed.
And rhythmically.
Especially rhythmically.
Join us for the next episode of Michael Jackson's Thriller album, Stories in the Room, with your hosts Anthony Marinelli and Stephen Ray. Watch our extended interviews on youtube.com/@storiesintheroom. Audio-only interviews are available on all podcast networks. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok @StoriesInTheRoom. For the latest news and links, visit the website, storiesintheroom.com. This podcast is produced by Christian D. Bruun and David Wolf, recorded by Audivita Studios. Additional recording by Ben Rackless. Edited by Jay Spang and Sean Hedinger. Music by Anthony Marinelli and Stephen Ray.
Michael Jackson's Thriller album.
Stories in